Thank you, Comrade Casey. Thank you, Comrade Sebas. Diplomatic committee members are here, live and active. It may be a discovery for Comrade Fru, but this year, 2026, to discover that there is no union treaty. But we have been saying these facts for a long period of time about no union treaty. We have been talking for all the while that we had 64 countries that voted for Southern Cameroon's independence on the 21st of April 1961 at the United Nations General Assembly, right? So it's not actually new to some of us, and this is why we have been saying that diplomacy is not gonna wait. Diplomacy is not waiting, for self-defense to strike something on the ground before we can act.
So I made my way into the information center at the United Nations headquarters. They asked me, why are you here? I had to explain to them why I am here and the department I need to hear from before I leave the United Nations. And they gave me contact details of that department. And I reached out instantly right there. They contacted that department, gave me their contact number. The United Nations is huge. As you see that building, it's huge. There are hundreds, if not thousands of offices at the United Nations. I said, I want to speak to this particular department. And they provided me their email, phone number. I had to call. I want to know the status of Southern Cameroons at the United Nations after 1961, after Resolution 1608 was issued. They took it into record and they said, can you email it? I said, yes. How soon can I get a reply from you? They said within hours. I opened up my laptop and I sent the email instantly at the United Nations. After making those calls and sending in those emails, I left the United Nations. I got back to my hotel at about 3:15 p.m. New York time. I got a reply from the United Nations. And this is sufficient for us to take this case to the next level.
Southern Cameroons, Ambazonia United Front, a diplomatic liaison officer. On the recent outings of Comrade Fru Roland and the non-availability of a union treaty, fellow Ambazonians, Southern Cameroonians, British Cameroonians, and French Cameroonians, listen attentively. There is nothing new that our comrade Roland Fru has discovered that has not been said. This office stands to educate, encourage, remind, and correct the narrative. I take you back to 1961. It was Ambassador Kosciuszko Monzet of France who had this to say, and I quote, in the space of a few weeks, after reading a report submitted in the last minute, which most of its members have not had time to examine seriously, the Decolonization Committee pronounced in haste on the question concerning the future of a people We hope that today's vote will not entail dramatic consequences, though we fear that a disguised annexation is being perpetuated under the label of a United Nations against the will of the peoples. We hope that all those who, in good faith, felt it their duty to vote in favor of this resolution will not someday have cause to regret their somewhat hasty pronouncement. End of quote. The issue in question is Southern Cameroons. It was also from Mr. Thomas, Mr. Thompson of the United Kingdom that it was spelled out on 1st of August 1961 that if anything goes wrong in the Southern Cameroons on or after 1st October 1961, we pray it will not be the British government and the British people will get the blame for this. We are now within a few weeks of 1st October and nothing effective has been done to ensure that this territory, British Cameroon in question, into which we have put much work, will have a reasonable chance of going forward into a peaceful and prosperous future. Ladies and gentlemen, dear diplomats, it was also in 1953, from 1953 to 1961, when Dag Hammarskjöld was United Nations Secretary General, that he had this to say concerning our sovereignty. Uniting the Southern Cameroons to the Cameroon Republic is like forcing a balloon under the sea. One day it will come out. That day in history came. That day in history came. And we came out. If people gave deaf ear to the works of our forebears, I am hereby telling you all, clarifying, empowering, reminding, and correcting the narrative. And we will go next to say that the SCAUVA diplomatic committee is leaving no stone unturned to see that through the diplomatic liaison we leverage on this lofty initiative with due and minimum but elaborate and effective diplomatic outreach in the quarters that matter. It was the former chairman of the House of Foreign Affairs Committee speaking at the 896 United Nations General Assembly meeting of 6 August 1959. Clement J. Zablocki of the United States of America, Washington, D.C., who had this to say. The United States congratulates the people of Southern Cameroons for their accession to autodetermination as it constitutes the will of the population who wants to run its own affairs democratically. End of quote. On the project of unification, the results of a hurried choice imposed on the population of the trust territory will be catastrophic for their political. In 1985, a renowned historian, Joseph Van der Linden, said the federation was used by the Cameroon Republic merely as a ploy, a smokescreen to soft caution its colonization of British Southern Cameroons and to enable the territory to swallow the bitter pill of its annexation. In the same way, Eritrea was annexed by Ethiopia. Now, we're going to look at what others had to say about this and know that it is not any new discovery about the issue of non-availability of a union treaty between French Cameroon and British Cameroon in the United Nations archives. There was no union treaty whatsoever on 1st of October 1961. What happened was a mere border adjustment enabling the Republic of Cameroon to adjust its southern or southeastern border some 400 kilometers westward to the point where it now shares a common boundary with Nigeria. That was Philippe Bajard in 1994. Beloved British Cameroon Ambazonians, SCAF will not spare any effort, especially from the office of the diplomatic liaison officer, in reminding, educating, setting the records straight on this matter every now and then. And so we ask you to do well to share with us widely, because it was Jacques Benjamin Weimar who in 1972 also said, what happened in the former British Southern Cameroons is a mere classic case of creeping annexation. Creeping annexations, ladies and gentlemen, is what has happened, is what is happening, and it's not something you should be unawares of. Come back to the year 2002. A political scientist had this to say, and in the name of Luke St. John, Dr. Luke St. John said the federation was a strategy used by the Cameroon Republic to annex the British Southern Cameroons and merely a make-believe ploy used successfully to hoodwink both the United Nations and the Southern Cameroon's leadership. Finally, it is in no interest of mine to discredit Comrade Dr. Roland Fru of his own endeavors. We in SCAF appreciate his diplomatic moves, researches, and publications. We just want to be on record that this effort and huge sacrifice would have been spared and invested or factored into a SCARF initiative or others in a more productive way if our comrade had accepted the truth and appreciated the efforts of others, even to the point where we had to thank Dr. Jongu Foncha and Honorable Solomon Tanden Muna for once returning to the United Nations General Assembly to say the attempted union failed. They did the right thing before they left this earth. So we cannot build on the failures of the past without accepting what they did positively. We have also, in other appreciative efforts, lauded the brilliance of Dr. Jongu Foncha and his diplomacy in not having signed any treaty with the Cameroon Republic, French Cameroon, even when he represented British Cameroon as Prime Minister and the head of government of British Southern Cameroons. Our fellow Ambazonians, like I said, it is only normal and natural to believe that continuity is backed in international law by the right to self-determination, which now permits you to either amend, reject, or embrace colonial nomenclature. And so the Republic of Ambazonia, or the Ambazonia identity, is an act of self-determination admitted in law and no terrorist act and not a secessionist act. But for further diplomatic empowerment, secession is also an inalienable right from all charters and United Nations systems. It is terrorism that is totally rejected. It's a crime. It is annexation that is a crime, and that annexation tendency and policies, French policies, encapsulated in the package of assimilation, is outrightly rejected by SCAF in their desperate quest for. Finally, the SCAF diplomatic liaison office is appreciative of the research work done by Comrade Dr. Roland Ofru to the United Nations. It only buttresses our resolve to attract world recognition for the indigenous sovereign people of southern Cameroon, Ambazonia. Our unity calls continue to be extended even to your comrade Roland Fru and those pushing him towards the same goal we all have. This will not be the first time yours truly is commenting or reacting to some of Dr. Fru's publications. In another capacity, I had responded to the issue of Mezam as or Bamenda nation as propounded by the same comrade. I think that corrected him, put him on rail for him to go research for himself. This is how we continue to be watchdogs or whistleblowers under the leadership of the watchman of the nation, Ambazonia. It will not suffice that I ended here without giving reason to the people who identify themselves as Ambazonians. There is nothing like no continuity in the identity of Ambazonia. Rather, diplomatically speaking, the nomenclature Ambazonia or Republic of Ambazonia or Ambazonian identity is an international law mark supported by the unilateral Declaration of Human Rights and Freedoms to the assertion of self-determination. So it is a baseless argument to say you cannot identify yourself as Ambazonians and would want to shake off colonialism and neocolonialism, but hung on the colonial nomenclature without any strength to rise up and give yourself the identity you want to be identified with or want to be referred to in your own sovereign territory. With that said, I thank you all for listening. I thank you all for pushing every effort of SCAUF diplomatically and in a civil protection dimension. Thank you, because we also have other specialized committees within SCAUF to allow you the opportunity to put in that little drop of water that will make the mighty ocean, into which the 2 cubes of sugar have never been able to be dissolved by the Cameroon Republic. That's French Cameroon. Humbly, I submitted SCAUF Diplomatic Committee Liaison Officer.
My people of the Southern Cameroons, I'm just returning from a trip. I paid a visit to the United Nations headquarters in New York. And what I found out, I'm going to share details of that trip in this video. Remember, I promised us that before the end of January, I'm going to provide for us a concrete roadmap on the way forward. This video is designed for that purpose. Make sure you watch every second of this video. Share this video with a friend and a loved one, especially if you are from Southern Cameroons. Whether you work in La Republic government or not, whether you are an Amba, everyone that is from Southern Cameroons should watch this video. I will start by playing a video that we put together of that trip so that you can watch it and then we'll go ahead and analyze this video. There is a lot for you to learn in this video that will change your life, that will change your perspective about everything you knew about Southern Cameroons and La République du Cameroun, coming from the United Nations. No third party, no interpretation, raw facts from the United Nations. Let's go ahead and watch that video, and then we'll proceed with this analysis. Buckle your seatbelt, grab a cup of coffee, and let's enjoy this wonderful ride. Take a look.
Comptez mes doigts, dites-moi d'où il vient. Enfin je sens, pas vrai. Où est ton papa? Dis-moi où est ton papa? Sans même pouvoir lui parler, il sait ce qu'il ne va pas. Sacré papa, dis-moi où es-tu caché? Fais au moins 1000 fois que j'aime. Comptez mes doigts, dites-moi d'où il vient. Enfin je sens, pas vrai. Où est ton papa? Dis-moi où est ton papa? Sans même pouvoir lui parler, il sait ce qu'il ne va pas. Sacré papa, dis-moi où es-tu caché? Fais au moins 1000 fois que j'aime. Comptez mes doigts, dites-moi d'où il vient. Enfin je sais, pas vrai. Où est ton papa? Dis-moi où est ton papa? Sans même pouvoir lui parler, il sait ce qu'il ne va pas. Sacré papa, dis-moi où es-tu caché? Fais au moins 1000 fois que j'aime. Comptez mes doigts, dites-moi d'où il vient. Enfin je sais, pas vrai. Où est ton papa? Dis-moi où est ton papa? Sans même pouvoir lui parler, il sait ce qu'il ne va pas. Sacré papa, dis-moi où es-tu caché? Fais au moins 1000 fois que j'aime. Comptez mes doigts, dites-moi d'où il vient. Enfin je sens, pas vrai. Où est ton papa? Dis-moi où est ton papa? Sans même pouvoir lui parler, il sait ce qu'il ne va pas. Sacré papa, dis-moi où es-tu caché? Fais au moins 1000 fois que j'aime. Comptez mes doigts, dites-moi d'où il vient. Enfin je sens, pas vrai. Où est ton papa?
So that is the trip to the United Nations headquarters. So after this presentation, we should have little debate about the status of Southern Cameroons. We put in the work. To begin, I would like to break down this trip before we get into what the United Nations said. We planned this trip 1 month ahead of time. 1 month. The reason why I'm sharing the details of this trip is to help Southern Cameroonians understand the power of work ethic. Because every institution in the Southern Cameroons, whoever will lead any of those institutions, whether it's a business, you should understand that you pray as though everything depends on God, but you work hard as if everything depends on you. So we planned this trip 1 month ahead of time. While I was making videos and getting us engaged with our history, because what I'm teaching here should help you as a leader build character. There are many areas of our lives that I attempt to touch through every content that I create. Before embarking on this trip, we made numerous calls to the United Nations, sent emails, contacted international lawyers just to frame this visit. Everything about this visit was well thought out. The dressing code, what color of tie to wear, everything about this trip was intentional. booked the hotel, paid the flight 1 month in advance. Arrived in New York on the 26th. It was a 4 days mission. On the 27th, I woke up, got ready by 5 a.m. Got an Uber to the location. I was there at about 5:30. The office opens at 9, but I was there at 5:30 a.m. studying the environment. Even though we had watched everything about the United Nations, studied everything we could about the United Nations, how to navigate that system 1 month in advance. But when I got there 5:30, I was at that office in the morning just to understand the environment. Grab coffee. It was cold. I had to put on gloves. You can see my dressing, everything. 9 a.m. when the office opened, I went there. And the security officer told me that let me come back in March, that they don't accept visits today. I said, we had prepared for this. He said, no. I said, when did they institute this policy that the United Nations is closed from January to March? And he said, about 80 years ago, just to scare you and send you away. I would have left that place thinking, oh, I'm a black man from Africa, so they hate me. I said, I'm not going to give up. I turned around in 30 minutes, I'm back again. The security officer had been changed at that time because they switched security officers, maybe every 30 minutes or every 1 hour. I went into almost every office on that United Nations street just to make sure that I get the right information to make my way in to the United Nations. Finally, a gentleman told me, go there, sign up, get a QR code, and you'll be able to sign up online as a visitor. And then you have to go print a badge, and then you use that badge to go through the security system into the United Nations. And I did that. I said, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going back 3 days here in New York. I must make my way into this United Nations. I said to myself, I'm not going to give up. It was freezing. Remember, I come from Texas. We don't have this type of snow that I see in New York. But I said to myself, I'm not going to give up. My people are dying back home. I need to understand what happened after 1961 with the status of Southern Cameroons today. So I went in there, got the badge, went through the security system at the United Nations, and made my way into the information center. And they asked, why are you here? So we had prepared on what type of questions will be asked, how you should answer, what not to say, what to say. We had planned 1 month in advance. So I made my way into the information center at the United Nations headquarters. They asked me, why are you here? I had to explain to them why I am here and the department I need to hear from before I leave the United Nations. And they gave me contact details of that department. And I reached out instantly right there. They contacted that department, gave me their contact number. The United Nations is huge. As you see that building, it's huge. There are hundreds, if not thousands of offices at the United Nations. I said, I want to speak to this particular department. And they provided me their email, phone number. I had to call. I want to know the status of Southern Cameroons at the United Nations after 1961, after Resolution 1608 was issued. They took it into record and they said, can you email it? I said, yes. How soon can I get a reply from you? They said, within hours. I opened up my laptop and I sent the email instantly at the United Nations. After making those calls and sending in those emails, I left the United Nations. I got back to my hotel at about 3:15 p.m. New York time. I got a reply from the United Nations. And this is sufficient for us to take this case to the next level. So I'm going to break things down slowly so that everyone understands. So I did not walk into the United Nations with emotions, politics, or debate. Why? Because this is 65 years. I went in there understanding that this is responsibility for me and for our people. And it's about timing as well. Plan, prepare, and when the opportunity shows up, take advantage of that opportunity. There is a short legal window, because I came back, I've been in contact with the lawyers that will be working on this case. A solid international law firm from the UK. We chose the UK specifically for a purpose, and you understand why. So there is a short legal window in front of us. And either we act within that window or we live with confusion for another generation. So I did not go into the United Nations to protest. I did not go to lobby. I did not go to shout. I went the way serious work is done. Any serious statesman, this is how they carry themselves and this is how they act. So I passed through the security. I received a visitor's badge. I entered the building. I went to the information desk. I contacted the department responsible for records. Then I followed up directly with the UN archives by phone and by email. Because when you want answers from institutions, from the world, you don't shout at it. You ask the right question in the right place. My people, for 65 years, our people have been asking the world, why did the relationship with La République du Cameroun fail? Why are we suffering? We've lost thousands of people. Why don't the world act in a way that can give us peace? Help us have a place we can call our own. Those questions are human questions, but they are not legal questions. The question I asked the world was simple, but more serious. This is what I asked the United Nations, both on phone and through email. Remember, I told you, only the truth will set us free. Whether you are from La République du Cameroun, you are a Southern Cameroonian who works for La République du Cameroun's government, I want to let you know this mission is about peace and stability in this area so that we can all prosper. For those who label others blackleg, I want us to set all those labels on the side, because the narrative of Ambazonia, we can call you blackleg against the people of Southern Cameroons as well. This is time for us to cooperate and work together. Even citizens of La République du Cameroun, you should fund and support this initiative. It's very, very important. Every Southern Cameroonian, whether you work for La République government, this is time for us to set aside our differences as black people in this area and bring about peace and sustainable development in this area. So this is what I asked the United Nations. After the 1961 plebiscite and UN Resolution 1608, where is the legal instrument on record that implemented the union for Southern Cameroons? Not interpretations, sir. Not theories, sir. Records. That's all. Because that is the foundation of the problem we have been experiencing for 65 years. I didn't come here in the capacity of a politician, an activist, a spokesman for a government in exile. I'm just a researcher, a statesman. from southern Cameroons. And I just want to know. That single question changes everything. The response from UN archives points to two things: the plebiscite and Resolution 1608. It does not point to a deposited treaty or implementing agreement establishing a union. Clarity. That is not my opinion. That is what the record points to. And when records speak, my people, arguments stop. I've heard some people talking about Somaliland. We will touch on that as well, because this is time for little confusion or little mistakes. If we make one mistake based on what we have in our hands right now, we are going to send ourselves 20 years behind. So some people say others went to the United Nations before. Foncha went to the United Nations before. Yes, my people. Many people spoke. Many petitioned. Many protested. Our people have tried their best. People can only act based on their understanding of this case. They can never act beyond their understanding of this case. And that is why we have to keep an open mind. Because I see some people are clinging to personalities. That, oh, this individual has been around for 9 to 10 years. We know them. Oh, so this is the person we should listen to. What you are saying is, if Foncha was alive today, you will say, oh, because he was at the Fumban conference, because he was the one representing Southern Cameroons, so we should listen to him. I will tell you, no. Foncha doesn't understand state formation. The fact that he went and served in La Republique's government right up to 1995, that is the time he went to the United Nations. I'm not blaming anyone here, because even the delegation, no delegation from Southern Cameroons stood up and said, oh, we don't have a union treaty. What are we doing? So we can't blame anyone. And right up to 2021, our people have gone into the United Nations and deposited similar petition. That can't really help us. So don't blame anyone. Let's take responsibility. So many people spoke, many people petitioned, many people protested. But one step was never taken. No one directly verified with the UN custodian of record whether the legal instrument that should have completed the 1961 process actually existed. Until now, we argued, and you can hear the rhetoric in the community, we argue as if a legal relationship clearly existed and then failed. Let me repeat that again. Until now, we argue, listen to your activists, listen to your leaders, even the whole narrative of Ambazonia, like we gain our independence, because that is Somaliland narrative. We gain our independence and then chose whether we'll join Nigeria or we will join La Republique du Cameroon. That is not the question. Do you choose to gain independence by joining? If you miss that question, every conclusion after that will be wrong. And you can loop around that for hundreds of years. So we argue as if a legal relationship clearly existed and then failed. I ask a more basic question. Was the relationship ever legally completed in the first place? That difference matters. And that is what changed everything. And the United Nations replied by saying, no, there is no legal instrument, no legal document binding La Republique du Cameroun to Southern Cameroons. I want all of us to be patient with each other, including citizens of La Republique du Cameroun, because even us from Southern Cameroons have not made our position clear, because most of us have been confused even about our own story. So, now let me address the issue of Somaliland, because now this is something that is up and about in the community. Somaliland is not a UN trust territory. Somaliland was a colony of Britain. Southern Cameroons was not a British colony. Southern Cameroons was a UN trust territory administered by Britain. Britain was the administrator. With a colony, you own that colony. You can make decisions for that colony. You have to negotiate your independence with your colonial master. That is the difference. Britain was supervising, administering. They never had sovereignty over us. They were not our colonial master. We got to the point where we thought Britain sold us to France. We believed it. Our community runs on conspiracy theories. We all know that. So we are minimizing that, even through this video. Somaliland did not have a UN supervised plebiscite, because if you take an example from a country, just because you are emotionally connected to their story, they've been fighting since 1991. It's almost 34 years or 35 years. Somaliland is not yet recognized. Our case is so good. If structured, framed, and presented the right way before the war, we will have victory within a very short period of time. Anyone you tag yourself to, you carry their sins. You carry their struggle. Let's be very mindful, because this is Southern Cameroons, a UN trust territory administered by Britain. Somaliland's future was not debated by 87 countries at the UN General Assembly. Southern Cameroons was. 87 countries were present at the United Nations to decide on the day Southern Cameroons would have gained independence by joining La République du Cameroun. Our issue is not secession. Somaliland gained their independence and then willfully joined Somalia. Somaliland, unlike Nigeria, were a British colony. Somalia was an Italian colony. They gained their independence from Britain and then willfully joined Somalia. That distinction matters. Let's study our own history well. Study every record that has to do with Southern Cameroons and stay focused on that. Do not mix our story with that of Northern Cameroons. Do not mix our story with that of Biafra. Do not mix our story with any other liberation movement just because we are emotionally connected. We should not just yoke with any liberation movement we see across Africa just because we are emotionally connected to their story. You carry their sins and their pain. Our story is unique. Our issue is not secession. Our issue is implementation of a UN process. Incomplete independence, incomplete decolonization. You cannot lobby your way around a missing legal instrument. It's like going through hell to get to heaven. When you have a clean legal path, 87 countries were present at the UN General Assembly at the 994th plenary meeting in New York. It was a Friday at 3 p.m. You cannot lobby your way around a missing legal instrument. Even the United States of America can't grant Ambazonia independence. The entire trusteeship collapses. What will the UN update in their records about our story? An And it's not the job of Britain or the United Nations to write your story for you. Whatever you present to them, they deal with what you present. If you come up with a story that has no historical continuity, they classify your story and then they deal with it as they see it. So if your story sounds like a secession movement, they classify it under secession. And then they'll be talking about dialogue and humanitarian aid and all of that, and you go nowhere. Do you understand? Classification. The first thing they do is classify your case when you open your mouth. It is your duty. 87 countries were present for us. If the negotiations never took place, the ratification of a union treaty never took place, it is our job to study those documents, call the attention of the United Nations. This is the first step towards showing the world that we can govern ourselves. If we can't do that, we want them to do everything for us. Oh, they would have done this. They who? This work I'm doing, is it possible? Yes. And I'm able to clarify us with clarity, certainty, depth, work, research. No excuse. And this is why we must be clear. This is why copying other people's lobbying strategies will not work here. It is not the job of the world to explain our problem for us. This is how this world operates, my friends. We love soccer. When you go register your team, maybe the Lions of Cameroun or the Lions of Senegal, it is not the job of FIFA to teach you what handball means. The rules are there. You study it, you go train based on those rules. When you show up to play, they understand you know what you're doing. So whatever you present, they understand you know what you are doing. You say, oh, FIFA should have coached you. No, that's not the job of FIFA. Some say, oh, Britain did not show up at Fumban. That means they sold us. Fumban Constitutional Conference. A constitution is held within a defined state. It's a good thing Britain was not there. Remember, Britain was not our colonial master. We were a UN trust territory administered by Britain. That distinction matters. So study Somaliland, study Eritrea, all these countries you've been naming, study them well. Details matter. Details, again I repeat, matters. We can choose any narrative we like, including names. You can say, oh, I want to be called Ambazonia. You show up, Ambazonia, okay, there's no historical continuity. This is a secession movement within a defined jurisdiction. Classification, and then they ignore you. Whatever you present yourself to be, you can say you are Ambazonia. They will look at the records. There's no historical continuity. They will classify you as a secessionist movement within a defined jurisdiction and ignore you. If you're killing each other and the number escalates, they will come in, bring peace, and restore you back in La République du Cameroun. That is the future. But we have a good case. When this foundation is settled, anything can be built on this foundation. Without clarity on this foundation. If you are looking at Somaliland, they started in 1991. So that means we have more than 20 years to go. Because this is 2026. So we have more than 25 years to go to get at the level where they are, and yet they are not recognized. I want you to rest on that. And we are divided. We are not clear about our story. And our story is unique from all these nations that we are looking at. So we can choose any narrative we like. We can say Britain sold us. We can repeat theories. We can debate forever. There should be little debate about a history of a people. How can you debate history? And some people think it is fun to do that. No, it is sad to debate a history of a people. These are past events. They need little interpretation. You either study it and understand it, or you don't. Some people have been reading the Bible for 2,000 years, some for hundreds of years, some for 50 years, yet they don't understand what they are reading. And it's okay. That is why we study and we teach, so that we can make progress together. But if you want to debate history, so we can debate forever, or we can do our responsibility, accept our responsibility, study the trusteeship records, verify the process, and call the attention of the world to facts. They can't argue when I ask those questions. I was not there to debate. So they can't argue. For 65 years, this has not been a debate problem. It has been a responsibility problem, that we take responsibility. I can't believe 87 countries will be present to determine the day we will gain independence. That is, 87 countries came together to protect us. If there was anyone that they came together for, was Southern Cameroons, to protect us into this new relationship. And all we had to do was call their attention if things were not done the right way after studying that document. We could even hire a lawyer from Britain or any other country to help us navigate that process. We didn't. We create assumptions. I just spoke with a credible legal firm from the UK. We've been in contact for weeks now. We have to make sure that we get the right legal firm that understands this problem and can be able to assess everything that we have found so far and help us understand what the next steps look like. It is not easy to get these people on board. I know what we went through just to have this meeting with them. Upon my return from the United Nations headquarters, we scheduled a meeting for today. And it was a successful meeting. I'm going to share with you what we discussed with those lawyers. This is not a long-term donation drive. I told you it will cost us anywhere from $750,000 to $1 million for this case. We have to act fast. Top international lawyers do not wait. You see the meeting today? If they showed up for that meeting and I didn't have my questions and facts straight, I'll never have that opportunity again. The questions are asked help the lawyers to understand that I know what I'm talking about. Because some people think, oh, if you hire a firm that can lobby for you, they will press a magic button and everything will change. No. Whether it's a lobby firm, whether it's an international lawyer, they will only act based on what you present. A lawyer doesn't write your story for you and shouldn't do that. It is illegal. But they can help structure what you present to them based on your understanding of what happened to you. So if you don't understand your true story, a lobby firm, the best international lawyer can't help you. So this is a short legal window. Top international lawyers, like the company we are dealing with, do not wait. Retainers are not sorted letter. Once narratives harden, they become expensive to undo. Because we think we have forever to loop around, come around, tell different stories, and then people are patient to keep listening to different versions of our story. No. We harden doors when we do this. Momentum decays quickly after a breakthrough. So right now, we are moving into phase 1. The conversation we had today led us to the next steps. And we are waiting for their feedback. And then we'll go on to draft the contract. And then we start phase 1. And with phase 1, we'll have a fixed scope of legal assessment. We're not promising outcomes right now, but we have something solid to start working on. Again, if we don't do this, future generations will continue to be in pain, and most of us will never get to see our hometown again. We'll start and run successful, sustainable businesses in Southern Cameroons. So every business owner on the ground or abroad, every Southern Cameroonian, home or abroad, should take this serious. That is why I start by investing time like this, put in the work. Very important. So, based on that conversation, the objective of phase 1 is to confirm our legal status. We already have the United Nations confirm that there is no union treaty. Now, what should we do from here moving forward? That is phase 1. Jurisdiction and lawful pathways. That is what phase 1 of this legal assessment looks like. It will take approximately 6 to 8 weeks for them to put in that work. And the output will be a written legal opinion and clear next steps. This is a finite project, not a forever cause. So we are raising $100,000 for this first phase. They charge $2,000 for one lawyer per hour for legal fees, based on the fact that we are going to be working based on phases. So they charge based on phases. And not only one lawyer from their firm will be working on this case. Just the meeting today, we had 2 professional lawyers, professional international lawyers on that call. Once that cap is met, that is the $100,000, contributions close for this phase, for phase 1. If the retainer is not secured within this window, we pause and reassess, and the legal question remains unanswered. Watching videos is free, law is not. I know what we have put in right up to this point to help us have this clarity. It's not cheap. This phase 1 is a short legal window with fixed cost and clear outcome. Either we answer the question properly now, or we live with confusion for another generation. That is the decision we get to make. You need dossiers from the common law institutions in the Southern Cameroons that existed before 1961 and after 1961. How has this union affected these institutions? Remember, the teachers and the lawyers went on the street in 2016. These are institutions in Southern Cameroons, common law institutions. The Wane villagers in 2025 went on the street saying, Dio, you can't impose a chief on us. These are customary institutions. So we will need dossiers from each institution from the Southern Cameroons. So, UN trust territories, their problems are solved through process. But nations that were colony, they have to gain their independence from their colonial master. There is no colonial master we had to gain independence from. We were a UN trust territory. And we only find our freedom through process. Even self-determination is through the same process. That is why this legal foundation is everything that we need and must do if we truly desire freedom at any point in our evolution. When I was traveling to New York, the weather was terrible. We had all sorts of signals. I told my wife, I said, if I'm going, I'm not going to cancel this trip. I promised the people that they will have an update on what the next steps look like. And I must deliver. That is why I told the people at the UN, I must get in. I have 3 days. But within 1 day, we got feedback. I thought of returning the same day because mission accomplished on day 1. The thought was like, do you cancel the flight? I'm like, no, I'm not going to cancel the flight. And I told my wife I'm going. But if anything happens to me and I never return, I've deposited enough content on YouTube for Southern Cameroonians to study and find their freedom. And she said, nothing is going to happen to you. I said, I know nothing will happen, but should in case something happens. The legal path for Southern Cameroons was completion before independence. So we had to ratify a union treaty before independence on October 1st, 1961. Since that process was never finalized, the independence remained incomplete. Status before a UN trust territory, not a colony. Pay attention to that. Details matter. Those who do furniture, they tell you all the time. The finishing is everything. Details is everything. Even when you're building a house, contractors, you know this. The finishing is in the details. Administered by Britain for the UN. On behalf of the UN. A process, a system. That is why from the plebiscite question, if you miss it, everything else will be wrong. Plebiscite in 1961 claimed union with La République du Cameroun. The missing element, no deposited treaty of union. This is fact now because I've gone into the UN and I've come out with results. Evidence. UN Act completing process unclear or absent. Category, incomplete decolonization. UN status, file not clearly closed. So our file is still open. We'll run to everywhere, but focus on studying our case. Now, Biafra, we saw some of our leaders aligning with Biafra. Again, we are not blaming anyone because this will take us nowhere. Those you align with, the world watches. So this is who they think they are. Biafra, legal part, secession attempt, status before, part of independent Nigeria. Nigeria was a British colony, not a trust territory. Declaration in 1967, basis, ethnic and political grievance. See, grievances take you nowhere. So the number of people dying, the UN is used to that. The world is used to that. There are many people doing this across the world. Outcome, they were defeated militarily in 1970. Category, cessation from a recognized state. That is why when you pick up the name Ambazonia, immediately you fall under this category. UN status, never recognized. So the key lesson, grievance plus force without a legal process does not open UN doors. I could walk in there and talk about Southern Cameroons and get something. Biafra can't. Somaliland can't. But I could walk in there with Southern Cameroons and got feedback the same day. A mission, I thought, will take 3 days at the United Nations. On day 1, I got feedback. The remaining days, I was in my hotel, sending emails, talking with the lawyers back and forth. But on day 1, mission accomplished. I got everything I needed. On day 1 with Southern Cameroons at the United Nations. You can't make this up. You can't. So grievance plus force without legal process does not open UN doors. How can you have a case this good and then you mess it up because you're looking left and right. Shiny objects. Let's study our own case. God did not make a mistake. That our journey is unique. Let's study it, accept it, understand it, and tell the world this is what we are seeing. So you should understand the cases, the colony, UN process, the independence completed or not completed, and then the legal door that exists. Biafra shows what happens when you skip the law. Eritrea shows what happens when the law is finished. Southern Cameroons is still at the unfinished step. You cannot secede from what was never legally completed. That is how unique our case is. That a union was not properly formed based on that paragraph 5 of the UN Resolution 1608. After this is said and done, we will raise great lawyers from Southern Cameroons, magistrates. Because this is the foundation that took Britain to the next level. People thought it was just industrial revolution. No. They had a legal system that could be trusted. And this is the foundation I'm setting for Southern Cameroons. This is what you should understand. Nations or territories that were a British colony, Britain owned the territory and decides independence for those colonies. UN trust territories. The UN owns the process, not the colonies. That is what UN trust territory means. UN owns the process. The administrator manages it temporarily. That is the distinction. Southern Cameroons was administered by Britain. It's on every official document about Southern Cameroons. But it was never a British colony because it was a UN trust territory. Its decolonization had to be completed under UN rules, not British rules. So the illusion that Britain sold us is unbelievable. They sold us at the UN. Britain voted yes, France voted no. France supported Biafra to secede from Nigeria, while Britain said no to Biafra. And yet you think these people really work together like that? The 7 years war in Europe was between Britain and France. They've never been friends like that. When America wanted to part ways with Britain, France supported America financially. Did you know that? They are not friends like that. That's why we inherited these systems and we're having glitches here. Britain and France are not friends the way you think. Study their history. Every time you see Britain going to this direction, France is going to the opposite direction. And then you think they collaborated that much in a way that they could sell you. I mean, look at the votes. Britain voted yes. America voted yes. France voted no. Cameroon voted no. We just cook up stories, my friends. And that completion is the unresolved issue. Full stop. Big institutions make mistakes. But again, it was our responsibility to call the attention of the United Nations or Britain on this issue. Britain was a trustee. Nigeria could blame Britain to a certain extent, not us. We were not really into them like that. They were just administrators. You will find a donation link in the description of this video. For those who will contribute early, there are benefits. Early contributors are not donors. They are founding supporters of the legal process. So they will have priority access to information before the public. Early contributors receive private briefings before any public update. Advanced summaries of the Phase 1 legal opinion under DNA. Clarification sessions where questions are answered calmly, not in comment sections. This matters. Why? Because serious people don't want rumors. That is what has destroyed our community. They want facts before narratives are formed. B, early contributors will have first access to legal memo under DNA. When phase 1 is completed, early contributors receive the full legal memo or a detailed executive summary. Access is controlled, not leaked. This prevents misrepresentation and weaponization. Because what we have realized is you have to protect this case from Southern Cameroonians than from La République du Cameroon. Because there are some that just want to act without thinking. They will screw up everything for everyone. So we have to make sure that there is a process through which information comes to the public. And some of our early contributors might look at certain information and say, this shouldn't go out to the public. Or advice on how this information should go out to the public. And we will take that into consideration because they have some skin in the game. We are not selling secrets. We are protecting accuracy. C, recognition as founding supporters of the legal process. Not leaders, not politicians. They are acknowledged as founding supporters of the legal clarification phase. Contributors to restoring institutional dignity of the people of Southern Cameroons. People who stepped in before clarity was fashionable. Acknowledgement. This recognition is historical, not social media driven. D, early participation is structured consultation. Early contributors may be invited to small structured consultations, evidence validation discussions, questions about how information should be responsibly communicated. This filters seriousness and keeps noise out. E, moral clarity without activism. Perhaps the most important benefit. Early contributors know they helped answer the first legal question, not fund confusion. That's dignity, not drama. Poor dossiers will destroy credibility. We will build Southern Cameroons through humility, authenticity, truth, being honest with our own history, with how we carry ourselves, and how we present facts. The world must hear us. We will not be ignored. So standards must be clear now, not in the future. Now, our foundation must be built on standards. Clarity, very important. Priority institutions for phase 1. These are the priority institutions for phase 1. A, teachers, educational institutions. B, lawyers, judicial institutions. And C, customary institutions. We've had agitations predominantly from these institutions. But this is not leaving out the rest of the institutions or common law institutions in the Southern Cameroons. We are going to begin with this. There's a lot of work to be done. So we should have little time debating history, debating facts that we can see blue, red. Instead of accepting the color for what it is, we try to debate that this is not red or this is not blue. We have a lot of work to do, my people. This donation is investing in the future of Southern Cameroons. No amount is small. Whether it is $5, $10, $20, $50, $100, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, or $50,000, even $100,000. No amount is small for us to have this legal clarity and do things the right way and help our people find freedom. Let it begin now. Change starts with us. And your contribution is your vote of confidence that I want to see this problem solved and I want to see Southern Cameroons become what it was created to be. Everyone engage. Share this video with a friend or a loved one. Click subscribe on this platform. The link to the donation page is in the description. Circulate this message across every platform that you're part of in the Southern Cameroons. I'll see you in the next video.